Welcome to the Magical Traveling Moms podcast, where your hosts, Tina and Colleen, talk about all things travel. From theme parks to cruises to all-inclusive resorts and more, they cover news, tricks, and insider tips to inspire your travel dreams. They love to travel and want you to love it too. Find out their best-kept secrets and learn how to make your next vacation extra magical right here on the Magical Traveling Moms podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Magical Traveling Moms podcast. My name is Tina and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Miss Colleen. And today we have a special guest, Miss Michelle Baker. Michelle is the former officer of Disney Cruise Line and former director of the Disney Institute, and is now the co-founder of Stoneledge Enrichment, along with working for Lemonade with Miss Claudine Pohl, who is no stranger to our podcast. And not to mention, she is the author of a book called Focused, Fit, Fulfilled After 50. But before we get to our conversation with Michelle, we'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsors of our show, Mystical Dream Travel. Mystical Dream Travel is a full-service travel agency specializing in Disney destinations, cruise lines, Mexico, and the Caribbean. Looking to plan your next vacation, be sure to reach out to the fabulous travel advisors over at Mystical Dream Travel. You can find them at mysticaldreamtravel.com or look them up on social media. So, hey, Colleen, how are you?
Hi, Tina. I'm great. How are you?
Good. And we have a wonderful special guest with us today.
I'm
Michelle.
so excited.
Yay.
I am too. So how are you today, Michelle? Good?
Oh, I'm just thrilled to pieces to be here with both of you and to have this conversation about all things travel related and Disney cruise related. And I'm just a really big fan of your work. So I'm really excited to dive in.
All right, thank you. We are so honored to have you on our show. I mean, your list of accomplishments is amazing.
I was just going to say that. That was quite the list of accomplishments that you
I've
had.
had some fun.
Yes. Making some wonderful memories, that's for sure. So Michelle and I met, we're on in a group called The Perch, which is run by Dan Cockrell, who has been on our podcast before. And that's how we met. And we just really connected really well. And I'm so excited that you agreed to come on our podcast today.
Sure.
So why don't you share with our audience a little bit about your story?
Yeah, I would love to. And I do want to kick it off, however, just to say how much respect I have for both of you, not only starting this podcast and doing all that you're doing with your agency, but just the passion that you bring. I know, Tina, you just mentioned that we connected, and that passion was a big part of it. I could feel your passion coming through a Zoom call with 15 other people on the screen. It was amazing. And I think part of it is a little bit biased because I was privileged to be part of the opening team for Disney Cruise Line, specifically in the contact center. And we could not have done what we did without our travel industry partners. There's just no way. Because, the travel agents, especially those that were super experienced, asked the questions that even pushed us to be better and to know more about these ships that weren't even built yet. And they just had this, this passion that you could feel through the phone every time they called. And so I just have a lot of respect for travel agents and the travel industry in general. But my goodness, what you guys have had to navigate through over the last couple of years with just ever-changing travel restrictions and, even walking into Disney or going on a cruise right now is completely different than it was 3 years ago. So again, huge props to you and what you do for your profession.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Truly do. So, but you are right. It is very different than what it was 3 years ago.
Oh,
A little
my
bit.
goodness. So you and your team are just doing magnificent work. So a little bit about me. And thank you for the compliments in terms of my story. I just, in some cases, happen to be at the right place at the right time. I worked in the financial services industry for almost 10 years, and the company I worked for shut down. And if you've ever been part of a process like that, it is not easy. It is long and hard. And I knew at the end of it, I just wanted to go have fun again. And so I lived in Orlando, Florida, and in what's the most popular place to work in Orlando, Florida. I decided, you know what, let me drive down I-4 and get a job at Disney just for a couple of years, just to catch my breath again.
Mhm.
And to walk into casting, right day, right place, spoke to the right person, and was hired to be part of the Disney Cruise Line opening team. There were no ships built at the time. One piece of metal had not even been laid on the Disney Magic yet, but I got hired to be part of that opening team, and it was one of the most magical days of my career. So I started with Disney Cruise Line. I worked my way up into leadership in the contact center, eventually led the contact center for DCL for 8 years. Left briefly and worked with college recruiting for Disney Cruise Line, or Disney in general. And then through that, got the opportunity to actually join the Disney ships as an officer, which I did for 2 years. And I could tell you just amazing stories about that experience for the entire time. But to fast forward a little bit, after 2 years, it was time to come back on land. Beautiful experience for me. Being gone that long was tough on my family.
Yes.
So I came back on land and worked as a director with the Disney Institute for about 7 years. And then retired last year from Disney to start Stoneledge Enrichment. That's me in a nutshell.
That is amazing. That's amazing. I can't imagine the things that you've gotten to do, especially with being on the startup team of the Disney Cruise Line. That's like
that is so cool.
It is very cool. Very cool. Well, I know our audience really wants to know the scoop on the Disney Cruise Line. We want to know. Who are we kidding? We
want to know. We want to know.
We want to know. So I think that you have been on all of the Disney ships at some point.
All 4 of the ships that are out there now, absolutely, 100%.
Do you have one that's a favorite that I'm sure you like them all for different reasons, but one that you think is like better than the other? Or
yeah, they all have a very distinct personality, and I grew up with the magic and the wonder, and so for I can't remember how many years, but 1998 to 2009, I could be getting that year wrong, but for a very long time it was just the 2 ships, and so that was my family. That was my experience. There just could not be a better cruise experience in my book. Now, when the Dream came out, we were all so excited because we finally got to build new ships, the Dream and then the Fantasy. I can tell you that the first time I went on the Dream, it was like being so familiar with your home and then going to a new home, and it was just a little bit different. And so I remember my first impression going, wow, it's so big, and it is just so different. And have you been on the Dream or the Fantasy?
I've been on the Dream, and I actually 10 years ago was on the inaugural of the Fantasy.
Nice.
You lucky duck. I have been on the Dream before.
Yeah. So it's and you've been on the Magic class ships, either the Magic or the Wonder?
I have
been
not.
on the Wonder.
Yeah,
I've done the Wonder and the Dream. Those are the 2 I've been on.
So it was really different. It was like, I don't know if you've ever gotten stuck on some of those hallways where because the Magic and the Wonder are 2 hallways, 2 ways, so you always know where you were. I got lost a few times. It was like this is just so different. So that was my initial impression of the Dream. Now, fast forward to being an officer on the ship, a majority of that time was on the Dream, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the spaces. I fell in love with the crew, spaces and how they treated the crew members and the officers on board. I loved being on the 3 and 4 night cruise rotation because as an officer and someone from the US, I got to get off in Port Canaveral twice a week. So I went and got to go to Starbucks and Skype with my family. I got to go to Castaway Cay twice a week.
I mean, sign me up. That's a dream right there. I'm down.
It was perfect. And so I can't, it's like that kind of cliche of who's your favorite child. I can't tell you that I have a favorite child. I've been on over 200 cruises with Disney,
Oh,
work cruises included.
Mhm.
And most of those were on the Dream. So Dream definitely has a special place in my heart.
Oh, wow. I loved the Dream too, but I agree. Like it's like the Wonder was different, and it's hard to compare the two because
Just different experience, but
yeah,
they're all
very
beautiful,
different experience.
beautiful.
There's things I really, really liked on the Wonder, but there's things I really liked on the Dream. So you have to try them both. That's what I think.
Yeah, exactly.
You just gotta try them all.
You do. You have to try all of them. That's my goal, is to try all of them, one way or the other.
And the Wish.
And the Wish now, of course.
Yes. Colleen and I are both going on the Wish.
Yeah, same sailing. We didn't plan it that way, but that's how it worked out.
It did work out. So we were like so excited. And then I actually am lucky enough to have been invited to the inaugural sailing. And I haven't even announced that yet. So first news here. So in July. So I'm
exciting.
Really excited to do that. And like 10 years ago, I was on the fantasy inaugural selling. So it's kind of fun.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. So I guess like my question for you too is like, and I know Colleen has some questions too, but what is your favorite part of cruising? Like what are you most passionate about when it comes to cruising?
The answer is different if I think of it through the lens of being a guest and through the lens of being an officer. I want to start with how it felt to be an officer on the ships. Because you both experienced Disney Cruise Line, would you say that one of the best parts about Disney Cruise Line specifically is the crew members that you get to interact with?
Yes,
definitely.
Yes. Amazing.
So when I was on board, most of the people I interacted with were the crew, way more than the guests. I interacted with the crew quite a bit. And I'm very proud to say that the crew members that you got to meet on stage, so the people that you interacted with in your stateroom, in the dining rooms, through entertainment, the officers that walked around on board, those were the same people that I got to interact with backstage, meaning they weren't turning it on when they saw you, and then backstage everybody was grumpy, so to speak. It was, they were just genuinely kind and passionate and warm-hearted people. And I give a lot of credit to not only the culture at Disney Cruise Line, but also the recruiters that recruited from over 60 different nations, and it was really strong. So that's probably my favorite part of being an officer on board, was just getting to interact with, on a daily basis, people from Germany and Italy and the Philippines and so on and so on. That was extraordinary. As a guest, probably my favorite part of cruising that's a little bit different than going on vacation or going to even parks is that it's such an immersive experience.
Yes.
And you can go as fast or as slow as you want.
Yep.
If you want to like relax and be really present in the moment and just enjoy the fact that you're on an inclusive ship going to these beautiful locations, you can. Or if you want to experience 100 things, you can do that as well. So I think that was probably my favorite part of cruising.
I love that.
Yes. Same. I love a cruise. I actually, compared to the parks, I love the parks.
Yeah.
I totally love them. So don't take me the wrong way, audience. But I love the Disney Cruise Line experience.
Yeah.
It's a lot more relaxing.
Yeah.
And it is.
We're often asked about, can you still meet the characters on the ship and things like that? Yeah. And I actually find it much easier to meet the characters on board a Disney cruise, and the interaction is better. It's not that they're not good in the parks, they are, but it's just it's very different. It's more intimate.
I was going to say the same thing. It's more intimate. And when I have people that come to me and they're like, oh man, my kids love Disney and I want to take them to Disney World, but the thought of going to the Disney parks makes me want to claw my eyes out. I'm like, go on a Disney cruise instead, because you get the characters and the Disney experience and the magic, but it's much more laid back and relaxed and intimate and not as crowded. Obviously the ship can only hold so many people there. There are going to be more than that.
Yes, exactly.
No, I agree. So So what fun stories? I'm sure you have a lot of fun
I know.
about.
I'm curious about the staff and the crew, and I'm like I want to peek behind the curtain and see behind the scenes person, and I'm like, what is life like for the crew on the ship? Like, where do they stay? And I know that Disney cruise ships have like a special area, like in that front, right? You get your own like little pool and like recreation area, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that people told me before I became an officer on board ships. As I started thinking about the experience, they said, you know what, working on board ships is a lifestyle. It is not a job, because you are in like you're one of his direct reports, you're in a somewhere between a 4 and 8 month contract, meaning you work every single day, 7 days a week for the length of your contract, from day one to the day that you get off.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a lifestyle, and of course then you usually have about 8 weeks off in between to recover and rest and spend time. But everyone's in the same, pun intended, I guess, but everyone's in the same boat. So everyone's basically, and so there's this shared passion and this shared, almost to quote High School Musical, we're all in this together kind of mentality. And so I really enjoyed that part because, we kind of supported each other. We worked together, but we also lived in the same spaces. We ate in the same spaces. Disney does it. I think I only have that one reference, but I think Disney does it better than many cruise lines, because of the way they treat their crew members, and even the spaces are not an afterthought. The dining areas are amazing. Like you mentioned, the pool on front of some of the ships, amazing. We have a private beach on Castaway Key.
Really?
That is extraordinary.
Cool. So do you have to like take turns? Who gets to go hang out on the beach one stop and then you switch the next stop or something?
Yeah, schedules. It's a great question, Colleen, because of course, the reason why we're all there is to serve the guest. And so it's usually more how your schedule works out according to your position.
Right.
And, how you can take the amenities. But there's always a little bit of, there's no days off, but there's always a little bit of time off throughout the course of any day where you can go take a nap. I used to love walking on the island. I'd go for a run, ride the bike, go sit and play volleyball on the crew beach. It was kind of an experience. So
that's always so fun.
We're going to be looking for that crew beach next time.
So, when you were saying, that your only experience was really working with Disney Cruise Line, but you feel like they do it the best for their employees or staff. I actually chatted with one of the crew members. She was the sales girl at the gift shop on the Wonder when I was just on in February. And I don't even remember how it came up, but I said, or maybe someone was saying their friend was looking to apply to, work on a cruise ship. And she said, oh no, you have to do Disney. That's it. Like she had worked on other cruise lines, and she's like, Disney is the only one that you want to consider. Like, don't even bother with the other ones.
Yeah, it's totally a biased opinion. I know the lengths that that Disney has gone to not only recruit people that had an affinity for the brand, so they already kind of oozed Disney service and love the maritime industry as well, but people that would fit into the culture, and then on the flip side, to not only attract the talent but to retain the talent. They do a really nice job making sure that they're taking care of people.
Yeah, you can tell. I think that it's very genuine, their warmth and their passion. And you're right. That is what makes a Disney cruise so amazing, is the people that are helping, serving you on the ship. And you can't fake that, you can't really fake that kind of happiness. And they genuinely seem like they're happy to be there and to be working with you. And so I think that's something that's hard to fake.
Yeah. And the other thing is that's hard to fake, I think, is just, I know I mentioned we're all in this together, but my experience with the Disney Cruise Line crew is they genuinely liked each other. Like the teams were cohesive teams. The officers generally all get along. You look at youth activities and how much fun they have. Taking care of people's children from babies all the way up to the teens. And part of it is because they genuinely like spending time with each other, and
Right.
it's just that energy comes through. So yeah, the crew, like I said, if I were to just land the one point, is that the crew members that you all got to experience were also the crew members that I got to see backstage. Just genuinely good people.
So nice.
They are amazing. They are. I mean, I remember we were on the fantasy. My daughter was little. I took her with me, and you have the same wait staff at dinner every night. Yeah. And she was young. I think she was 5 at the time, and she's such a picky eater. And the waiter was like, asked her like what she likes, and every night we would come down. She loves strawberries. He would have a bowl of strawberries waiting for her before we even sat down. They were there, and her favorite drink, and just that attention to detail is just incredible.
You really feel like a VIP, and it doesn't matter which stateroom category you booked. They make you feel like a VIP, and it's sometimes a little hard to come off the ship and go back to real life.
You don't want to leave. You definitely don't want to leave. So let's talk about like some insider details on, we can talk about the Disney Dream, since that was and that's a ship I think that we as travel advisors book the most, is the Dream. So let's talk a little bit about the Dream. Colleen and I in 2019 had the opportunity to actually get a tour of the ship, and it was amazing. It was during Halloween time, so I'd never been on board during Halloween, so it was fun to see all the cool decorations, and we did like a nice walk through. It was fast paced because we had to be on time, but it was great.
It was a crash course, and we even got to tour one of the suites. I can't remember if we went into the Walt or the Roy suite.
Cool.
We got to go into one of those suites and tour it, and I was like, oh, okay.
It was the Roy suite.
Was the Roy suite?
We weren't allowed to take any pictures, but I did snap a picture. Sorry, Disney Dream. I did snap a picture up the door.
Of the door, right?
Yes. But I did tour the Walt suite on the Fantasy on the inaugural.
Did you? Yeah. No. That was really cool. I loved that tour. Was
beautiful. It's stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah. Yep. So with some like insider tips that maybe we wouldn't necessarily see, we might overlook.
Yeah. Maybe like hidden treasures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hidden treasures. It goes back to one of the comments I made earlier about cruising in general. You can be as busy or as chill as you want to be. It's just uniquely set up to do that. I think that especially I know this is magical traveling moms, so there's a lot of moms that are responsible for, planning their family trips.
Yes.
And sometimes it becomes a balance between wanting to get to all of the key sites. Like, I don't want to miss anything. This is our only vacation of this year. So I think one of the secrets to being successful with this is figuring out those 3 or 5 things that are just crucial to the family to get to do, and then balancing that with a good dose of just free time, so that you can immerse yourself in the moment, so that you can just randomly say, my gosh, there's no one on the ping pong table. Let's just stop and do ping pong.
Right.
Shuffleboard. Let's just sit here. The weather's perfect. I'm going to read. A couple of other things that jump to my mind is, for families that really do want to maximize, for example, Castaway Cay and the ships, is to, again, balance that I'm planning this with the free time. I know there's usually a mad rush in the morning to get a spot on the island. My biased opinion is that almost every spot on the island is pristine. So yes, go carve out your spot, but you don't need to be one of the first 20 people off.
Yeah.
And you may know this already, but I think it's really good to get out there early, get a good experience, have lunch, get in the water, and then get back to the ship.
Yeah.
Because There's a mindset of I'm going to squeeze out every moment on the island, which is great, especially the first time you've been there. But after that, I don't know if you've ever gone back to the ship early, and you can get on and off the aqueduct.
I was just going to say,
nonstop.
aqueduct.
Yeah. And the services are still, you still get go get your chicken fingers and your French fries and you can still experience all of that. Ice cream, walk right up, make your third thing of ice cream for the day.
I lose count. Well, my kids lose count on how many they've had.
Yeah. Well, calories don't count at sea anyway, so
that's right.
It's an international rule. But yeah, and so it is. I think that the insider tip is really to do your research, work with travel professionals like yourselves, figure out what are the 3 to 5 key things that you definitely want to do while you're on the cruise, and then just let the rest of the time kind of flow without it.
That is great advice.
That is some great advice. So do you have maybe a favorite spot on the ship that you like always enjoy? So I'm a morning person.
Yeah, me too.
So I love getting up in the morning and going and watching the sunrise. I have every time I cruise, I have like a million pictures of it. And I love going up on the top of the deck and walking in the morning. There's nobody out. I just find it's just so peaceful. So for me, like my favorite spot is early in the morning, either sitting on my balcony. My family, they're all still sleeping. They're they're not getting up, or going up to the top deck and just sitting there and watching the sun come up in the morning. It's just beautiful. It's really beautiful. So I was wondering if you had a favorite spot on the ship that you liked, and if and why, if it's just peaceful, just quiet.
Yeah. You and I are very similar, Tina, because I'm a person for sure.
Yep.
And even as a crew member, I love deck 4. I mean, I would wake up nearly every morning. As an officer, I had full deck privileges, meaning I could go out in, like in the morning, I can go out in my normal clothes, like put my exercise clothes on and deck 4. So I would do that nearly every morning. Obviously, if I'm in guest spaces, other than just like a walk or something, I would put my whites on, my officer whites. But nearly every morning, I would get up in the morning, put my workout clothes on, and go up on deck 4 and go for a run. And I've been able to see some of the most incredible sunrises
of my
life, because you're at sea. It's so quiet in the morning. Just do a bunch of laps, and sometimes there'd be people out there, but usually it was, I'm talking like 6 a.m. So it was usually just me and the waves. And so I really enjoyed that a lot. The other thing I enjoyed on deck 4 was pulling away from Castaway Cay. The party's on the top deck, the music, the characters, the people, everyone's on the top deck waving goodbye to Castaway Cay. But on deck 4, there's guests that come down there, but for the most part, it's so quiet, and it's like the ship is just silently pulling away. And some of the crew and the officers that are on Castaway Cay full time are there with the Mickey hands waving goodbye.
Aww.
Getting ready for the next ship to come in.
Yes.
But I enjoyed that too, because it just felt so quiet. So I think that the theme of my answer is that deck 4 was always my favorite.
I was just going to say deck 4 is where it's at.
Yeah,
I'm going to check that out next time. When I'm on the Wish, I'm going to go to deck 4 on the Wish and see how they go. Because that's my next cruise is the Wish.
Nice. Oh, crazy. Beautiful. Yeah.
So on Castaway Cay, so you mentioned Castaway Cay. I love it, Castaway Cay. I know they will never put a hotel there, but it would be amazing, and I would just go to vacation at Castaway Cay and just stay there. I mean, I find that island to be incredibly peaceful and very relaxing. It just has just such a laid back feel. And I think when I go there, I feel like this is like everything a vacation should be. But it has a good mix of fun and a good, of that balance and quietness. I don't know, Colleen, what you think, but that's how.
I mean, I was ready to just hide, in the mangroves and just see if they'd leave me there.
Yeah.
It'd put you to work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So my question about it, so when we get off, so we only see like that, just sort of like a section of it. I know there's a whole other side of it, but I think we focus on just those certain areas. So are there any like hidden areas that guests are allowed to go that maybe they don't typically go? Like kind of like deck 4, it's not as crowded.
Right.
But they're kind of like little hidden
overlooked by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, for full transparency, I've not been on a Disney cruise since 2014.
Okay.
And so that means I haven't been to Castaway Cay since 2014. So I'm not sure if things have changed in the past, 7, 8 years. But there used to be a canoe shore excursion that you could do on Castaway. And if you picture, so you basically, the dock, and then there in front of you is the main beach, the section, and then you go all the way to the end of the island on the tram, and then this way is the adult beach. So you can picture so far, right? If you go out towards the adult beach, either as part of the tour on a bike, there's a path that goes to the right that you can take pretty far back, and that goes to the other side of the island, which is kind of some shallow marshes. I don't know if you can go out there without being part of the tour, probably to a certain extent. So that's really cool. So if they still offer the canoe tours, I highly recommend it because it's small groups, it's quiet, it's peaceful. If they offer it, you guys can let me know if they do.
We'll have to check it. I think that's where I rode bikes with. When we were on Castaway Cay last, we rented bikes, which I loved. And we took it down the path that there's actually like a watchtower you can climb, which was really cool. But then I think we went down that path too, because we did go all the way to the end where the adult only section is, but I was with my kids, so I couldn't go in it.
Yeah.
And we went down like another lane and we got pretty far, and it was very like remote, like obviously no one else was down there. And it was really cool to see that part of the island.
Agreed. Yeah. So there's that. I would definitely recommend that. And Colleen, I think that I think you would probably agree with me in terms of the bikes. It's such a great experience.
Yeah. I was so happy we did that. Yeah. Because it was really cool experience to ride around.
It's great paths. You get to see a little bit more of the nature of Castaway Cay. You get to the watchtower, which you can climb or it used to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did when we were there. We climbed to the top of the watchtower.
Nice. Yeah. So those are some of the things I would recommend. The other thing is, I think Tina earlier you mentioned, pictures with the characters, and it's easier when you're on a ship. Some of the best pictures I've taken in my entire career at Disney were on Castaway Cay with the characters.
Yes.
It's something about the background that I think they maybe spend a little bit more time with each individual because there's not thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of people to interact with. And, just being, I don't know, there's just a vibe that you have when you're on an island that maybe that kind of shows through in the pictures. But even if you wait until then to take the pictures, which I think the character pictures on the ship are also phenomenal, but you got to get character pictures at Castaway Cay. That's a must.
No, I agree. Yeah. And the characters, I think, are a little hidden. They're on Castaway Cay sometimes, so which makes it fun because they're really in some great spots. And my favorite memory of it, my daughter was afraid of the characters when she was younger, and so we went to. She would be fine with the princesses and everything like that. But she was afraid of Mickey and Minnie. And so we went on the Fantasy, when we were at Castaway Cay, Minnie was out there. And I said, Sarah, I know you don't want to go up to her, but I'm going to go and I'm going to get a picture with Minnie. If you could just wait. And she got this bravery inside of her, and she took off in front of me, saw Minnie Mouse, and just stood there and posed and got her picture. And that
it.
was the
I
first,
love it.
yeah, that's the first
Yeah.
character, like Mickey and Minnie that she ever met. And then when we got back on the ship that night, Mickey, they were doing like a dance party, and it was nice because it was an inaugural, so it was really just travel agents and media, so it wasn't like crowded. So they were doing a dance party, and I have this amazing picture of her. And then she was fine after that, meeting all the characters, and this wonderful picture of her dancing with Mickey Mouse and just having a great time. And she just had her hair done at the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique on board, so she was, super excited. But yeah, so that's like my favorite memory. So I agree with you. I think the photos of the character, on Castaway Cay are just, you just can't beat them. They're just amazing.
Agreed.
So fun.
Yes.
Now I want to go.
I know. And that's what I'm like.
I'm ready to go now too.
They're like, when's my cruise?
I know. I'm like, man, August seems so far away.
Yes. So I don't excuse me. I don't know if Colleen has any other questions, but I'm sure she might have some food questions. But
I mean, I did see you jotted down to ask her about her favorite restaurant.
I did
jot that
down. But before we move to that, I have one question of if you could share like one thing that a family should do on Castaway Cay that they shouldn't miss out on, that you think would be like one thing they should do.
You know what? I've always been a fan of everything that we've talked about so far. So the bikes, just spending some time on the beach, the food on the ship, or the food on the island was actually my dad's favorite food, the one I got to take him out there. But I also really like the getting the snorkeling and a little bit older kids, I guess, but the snorkeling, that is pretty special. And it's, it's a little bit different than, and maybe it's still going in the water. So it's not 100%, animal proof or sea life proof, but I think it's a little bit safer than being in the ocean. So if you're interested in snorkeling, that's a great place to start. That's one. And the other is the watercraft rentals, like even just the self-propelled bikes and stuff like that. It's just a different experience being on the water, getting out as close to the ship as the guard rails will let you go. That's kind of a neat experience too. And not only is it great pictures, but I know that my son, who's 26 now, but he started cruising when he was 3. Those are some of his favorite memories as well, as being out on the watercraft, getting close to the Disney ship. So,
oh, cool. That's a good
I would
idea.
they can to do that.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put that on my list.
I know. That's what I'm doing. I'm like mentally like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
I've done the snorkeling and it is cool. I love all of the things that you could like, all the cool hidden Disney things that you can find snorkeling.
Exactly.
So is it true? So I have to think now. I'm like thinking because they're saying the hidden Disney things, but is it true? Is it the submarine? Oh my gosh, I can't think. I thought I had read that it was it's an old attraction that was at Magic Kingdom.
Oh, the 10,000 Leagues Under
the
Sea or
is
something.
Is that at Castaway Cay? Is that true or not true?
I can either confirm or deny. And actually, I have no idea. Yeah. I really don't. If it is, it was after I left in 2014. Okay.
All right, because
I tell you, there's a sunken Dumbo down there.
Like a Dumbo from the attraction?
Yeah, like from the Dumbo attraction. Yeah, like one of the little vehicle cars that you sit in. Yeah, that looks like Dumbo. He's down there.
I'm not being evasive. I really don't know. It's when I was there, I mean, we had and I don't want to spoil it for anyone that's not been out there. But,
there's a lot of cool hidden treasures down there.
A lot of cool stuff. Yeah.
Very nice. I'm not a snorkeler. I get a little bit claustrophobic. So whenever I do it, my family's like, just look down there. And I just go and look. And then I'm like, oh, good. Then they like the snorkel. So, well, let's talk about food. We'll wrap it all up by talking about the food and a little bit about your business. So Colleen is a big foodie. I like food too, but she's a really big foodie. So I will let her ask away. All the questions.
Wow. I'm so excited. I'm assuming that you've eaten at both Remy and Paulo. Do you have a favorite?
I've actually never eaten at Remy.
You haven't?
I've gotten to know many of the servers from Remy because they were just like really cool people and amazing volleyball players, which is kind of a strange fact.
That's very interesting.
I just got to play volleyball with them out on the crew beach. But my favorite restaurant for a number of reasons is Palo. And I think is everything from the service to the food itself to the selection. I still have pictures of the first time my son was able to go to Palo after cruising for 12 years. And when he turned 18, he got to, in fact, I was on board the ship as an officer, and he came to stay with me for a couple of cruises, and I got to take him to Palo, and it was a really big deal.
Nice.
But I had such great memories of wining and dining at Palo for sure.
Palo's great. Now, have you done the brunch? Like, do you prefer the dinner or the brunch?
I actually prefer the dinner because I love high quality food, but I don't eat like large amounts. And so the brunch, I'd find something I really liked, and then I'd have the second thing I really liked, and then I was full. And there's all this other.
I know they just keep bringing you food.
So,
it's a problem, right? Yeah, you're like, no, but I ran out of space. Can I take this all to go?
Yeah.
And then they're trying to push dessert on you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't.
Brunch just felt like a little bit too much food for me. But going back to a quick comment about how Disney treats crew members, I got to be part of the planning for the first 10-year service awards. And so that was when I was on board the ship as an officer, and you figure people had been with Disney Cruise Line since about 96 as they were building the ships, came out in 98. And so we were planning the 10-year service awards for crew. And it was really special. We did it in Castaway Cay. Oh. We did it at Palo. And the chefs went above and beyond to provide a really special like brunch-like menu. Because it was during the day when, of course, guests were on
everybody,
the
island.
Yeah. But I just remember thinking, wow, this is pretty amazing. You know, it's really not just saying, here's your award, let's take a picture. It was like we went all out to celebrate those that had been part of Disney Cruise Line shipboard experience for 10 years.
So awesome. Now, one of the things I love about Disney Cruises is the rotational dining.
Yeah.
And you're not just going to a dining room every night, right? Like each one is so unique and different. And then you get to try all of them during your cruise. But I'm curious if you have a favorite of the main dining experiences that you can have.
I think having my son grow up around the ships. And so of course, I was shoreside for the first 15 years, just an officer for the last 2. But he's been on dozens of cruises himself, and getting to see Animator's Palette through his eyes, everything from the way they presented the meals to the decor on the walls to the waiters. And I don't want to, give away secrets for people that haven't been on it. And again, I haven't been on it in a while, but just to me, Animator's Palette was a very immersive experience, and the food was fantastic. So, but all of the restaurants really had just fantastic food. And you're right, the themes and the vibe was a little bit different between each one. But Animator's Palette immediately came to mind when you asked the question.
I'm not surprised. Animator's Palette is my children's favorite. Like when we had our first meal there, my oldest was like, I wish we could eat in this restaurant every night.
Yeah. It was really special.
It is. Cool. It's a very cool experience. But you're right. Like all of them are so unique and different. And it's like having a dinner show. Like every night almost there's something happening. So that's what's so fun about cruising. Like a celebration every night.
Yes, exactly. Right. I am excited because on the new Wish, it really is going to be dinner and a show at pretty much all the restaurants. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to just check it all out because Disney always takes it to the next level every time.
Every time.
Level up. So, Well, thank you so much. So I want to talk a little bit about your current business. So you have Stoneledge Enrichment, and maybe just share with our audience what it's about and where they can find you.
Yeah. So thank you for asking. My son and I started Stoneledge right after I retired in March of 2021. And our focus is really on two things. I think that if you think about the Disney roots and what makes Disney so special, for me, it was the leaders that I had throughout my entire career, the leaders that developed me and stretched me and made me part of the culture. And so we feel very passionate about two things. One is helping businesses, and it's not the Disney way, but it's helping businesses create leaders that people want to work for so that jobs become careers again. Because I think when you have a great leader that you adore working for, and by the way, they're developing you, they're collaborating with you, they're great communicators, it's really hard to get talked out of leaving that position. So many companies struggling with retention right now. And so we're helping them develop leaders that people want to work for. Very specific formula that we work with. And then on the other side is we're also firm believers on, it starts with, your own inner world, and we call it calming inner chaos. Because I don't know about you, but there's days when the mind just feels like very chaotic, and it's hard to put 3 words into a coherent sentence, and you don't know what to focus on, and you feel overwhelmed and anxiety, and it just doesn't work. And then there's days where you just feel like in perfect flow and everything's clicking, and you just love what you're doing and it just comes easily. And so we've got, content. We do keynotes and workshops for businesses on, especially leaders, helping them calm the inner chaos so that they can, be in that flow state, so that they can develop their team, so that they can develop themselves. And so it all ties back to helping leaders become the best that they can be, but it's really 2 different lenses. One is the helping leaders become making jobs careers again. And then on the other side, thinking about self-care in your inner world.
Wow, that is amazing. I love that. And it's interesting. My husband and I were just talking the other day about the workforce, and just how people don't have loyalty to their companies anymore. Like that's not a common thing for someone to feel like they have a connection with who they work with and like have loyalty with them, and how we like kind of like a lot of, especially these big companies, like we've lost.
Yeah, exactly.
But how important it is, for a person, for their own happiness and like feeling content in a job, or like motivating them to try. That was actually where the conversation came from. Is we were like, I feel like a lot of people just don't care about their job anymore. But part of that is because why should they care about their job? Like their leadership needs to help them, give them a reason to care about their job.
Yeah, it's really well said, Colleen. And I think you nailed it, because obviously compensation is a part of the conversation. Obviously flexibility, it works for my lifestyle, is part of the conversation. But I think more often than not, the reason why people leave, but also the reason people stay, is because they feel that they're a part of something. They're a part of a team. They're a part of an effort to move an organization forward. I certainly felt it at Disney. I felt it with the Disney Institute and Disney Cruise Line. And by the way, no one ever left Disney Cruise Line, especially in the early days, because you felt like you were part of something. And when we get into this mode of, I just need 20 people to do this type of job, it doesn't even matter who the 20 people are.
Right.
20 people start leaving, because now it's like, my leader doesn't want to develop me. My leader is too busy to care about me as an individual. And it's really easy to leave that scenario. But boy, if you feel like you're a part of something, then that discretionary effort, that, loyalty is going to be with you for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. 100%. I think back in my corporate, exactly what we're talking about in my corporate days. I was a pre-travel advisor and podcaster. I worked in occupational health and safety. and, worked for a large corporation. And you just hit that right on the nail on the head, because it is true that if they're just going to continue to hire and hire and hire and not invest in you or give you a reason, you just, they call it burnout, but I really don't think it's burnout. I think it's just frustration.
It is.
So
a lot of frustration. Well said.
Yep.
Yep. So that's what we do. We help individuals become those leaders, and we also help organizations develop their leaders so that they can be, the people that create loyal employees. And I think that just to wrap it up, another thing that's happening in the workforce today is because teams are so stretched thin, when you onboard new leaders as an organization, you need them out there as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Focus becomes the tasks required to lead or to manage. So I need you to balance the timesheets. I need you to, train these 3 new employees. I need you to do these 4 things, but it's not on the skills required to actually lead other human beings.
Right.
And so if you just think task all day long, then you're not giving genuine care to your people. You're not developing those under you. And then it is just this constant rotation of new people coming in and out all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that is awesome. I think that's a really great thing that you're doing, because,
Thank you.
So many businesses, big and small, need that.
Yeah.
100%. So where can they find you? So where can our audience find you?
They can find us at Stoneledge Enrichment, all one word.com. So that's our website. I'm also on LinkedIn, Michelle Baker. You can even put in Michelle Baker Stoneledge and it should pop right up. And just to give you one quick little tidbit, is we are launching a course, because a lot of this is work that we're doing with direct companies. So it's like us and this small company, us and this large organization. But we're launching our first ever leadership development course, which will be 8 weeks long, and you receive a certificate at the end, but it teaches you how to become that leader that people want to follow. And it gets really deep into a lot of really relevant topics. That's being launched in 2 months. And so if anyone's interested in learning more, there's a contact us part of our website. Contact us and, we'll get you in on the ground floor of that course.
Awesome.
Great. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. So thank you. So before we go, we always like to ask our guests to share a little bit what we call pixie dust. So maybe share like your favorite memorable vacation or a guest experience that you had on Disney Cruise Line. It's up to you. So take it away.
Yeah. Tina, you sparked a memory when you were talking about your daughter and Minnie. One of the clearest and warmest memories I have from being a guest on the Disney Cruise Line is an experience we had in Port Canaveral. So if you've never been on a Disney cruise before, the Disney Cruise Line terminal is unlike any I've seen in the it's part of the experience. Yes. And so I was cruising with my son. He was probably 4 years old at the time, 3 or 4, so still a little guy. But at that point, he'd been on a dozen cruises. He'd been quite a bit. And so our goal going through the terminal at Port Canaveral was just to go get checked in, get on board, and start to relax. You've both been on Disney ships, so there's a large Disney model ship in the terminal.
Mm-hmm.
And typically that's a great place for the characters to go and stage for pictures. So when we got there, we saw Minnie, and I think AJ, my son, had just been on a couple of recent cruises because I did a lot of training on board as well for the contact center. So we walk up, and there's Minnie at the ship, and there's a line of kids waiting for her. So obviously we're not going to wait in line for another picture with Minnie. So we started working our way over to the check-in area. Minnie had just finished with a child, looked over, saw my son. It was clear that she recognized my son. Mm-hmm. She said, like, 1 second to the person, her helper that was sending kids her way. 1 second. She ran over to my son, knelt down, gave him a hug, gave him a kiss, then went back to line. I got to tell you, this little 4-year-old was walking through the terminal like this.
I love it. Oh my.
know?
That's
She
awesome.
was like, yeah, Minnie and I are like, like
Yeah,
massive.
yeah. She knows
Just
me. She knows me.
the state change in this little guy was just, it made me smile so big. And the fact that she saw him in a crowd and recognized him enough to come over and just for a few seconds to say hi.
Mhm.
It was a big memory for him too. So that warmed my heart.
Aw.
I love that story. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us today on our podcast. We definitely would love to have you back in the future.
Sure.
And so until next time, may all of your vacations be extra magical.